Nebraska is close to 1 month away from kicking off the beginning of spring practice. So in today's video, I'm going to go over 5 massive storylines that I'm looking out for throughout March and April. Some new breakout players in offense and defense, positional battles, brand new coaches and their adjustments, big nuggets, and so much more. So really quick, we have a lot to get into discussing spring practice. Hey, if you're having a good day, I know I am, hit that like button. Also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan, you're unsubscribed, what are you waiting for? Please hit that subscribe button. I post daily Husker football content on this channel, and I post practice updates you're going to get nowhere else, recruiting updates, breaking news, analysis, and so much more. So please join this family over 10,000 strong. Hit that subscribe button. You'll be thanking yourself that you did. But without further ado, let's get into it, going over 5 massive storylines that I'm looking out for throughout Nebraska's spring practice. Now, the Huskers are slated to begin practice on March 26th. That will run until the end of April. And this year in particular, going into a massive year 3 for Matt Rhule with a bunch of brand new players, brand new coaches. There are more storylines than ever. Let's get things started with the first thing that I'm looking out for during spring practice. This is a positional battle, and it's in the secondary. Now, the defensive back room is going to be a massive hot topic for the next couple months, not only in April and March, but throughout the entire summer and going into the fall. Not only are players competing to start at that corner spot or start at safety or even start at rover, we'll get into that. They're competing for a spot on the roster to begin with. As of right now, there are 28 DBs on the roster for the Cornhuskers. By the time this 105 cap limit begins in the summer, they've got to cut that down to about maybe 25, even 20 defensive backs. So we're going to see a bunch of guys get cut, walk-ons and scholarship players alike. It also should be noted, we have a brand new defensive backs coach in Addison Williams coming in from Central Florida. He has no allegiance to any player on this team, especially in the secondary. He didn't recruit any of these guys. So it doesn't matter what you did before this spring. If you were a good player in practice, if you played every now and then, it doesn't matter. Nobody is safe. And we've talked about in the past how Matt Rhule is going to conduct this spring cap like it's the NFL. Okay, people are competing for a spot. There are players that will be cut. So that's the thing that I'm looking out for. Who's going to get cut, but also who's going to start in that secondary, right? Who's going to start alongside Sear right at corner? Is it going to be a Larry Tarver, Amari Sanders, perhaps a transfer like, Jameer Khan or Andrew Marshall? Who's going to start at safety alongside Deshaun Singleton? Is it going to be a Marquez Buford again? Maybe a Malcolm Hartzog, maybe a Caleb Benning? Who's going to start at a rover now that Mr. Isaac Gifford is no longer with the team, obviously graduating? So there's a lot of things up for grabs, but the main thing I'm looking out for is who's going to get cut. And I'm particularly looking at some of these younger players going into year 2 or year 3, like a Braylon Prude, like a Rex Guthrie. Okay, those are players that Evan Cooper, our past secondary coach, recruited because he liked their upside, he liked their speed, and they were kind of under-recruited guys, really didn't have too many offers. Who says that Addison Williams likes those guys and sees the potential that maybe Evan Cooper did? There's a strong tendency within Addison Williams to not go toward those guys. So those guys might be on the chopping block. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's the reality of sport nowadays, but the secondary in particular, that's going to be a huge hot topic. We're going to get a lot of answers over the next couple weeks, let alone next couple months there. So that's the first thing I'm looking out for throughout spring practice. I want to get into my second storyline, and this is talking about the offense. In particular, Dana Holgorsen. Dana Holgorsen, for the first time, has a full offseason as Nebraska's offensive coordinator. When he got to Nebraska with 3 games remaining on the schedule, he couldn't really do anything. He couldn't change up the philosophy. He couldn't change up the personnel, really. The only thing he could do was call plays. And he was an improvement at that. But with him being here for an entire offseason, he finally gets to change the philosophy of this offense. Okay, he has the reins. Matt Rhule has said over the past couple months, like he's not going to really be involved in the offense. Okay, it will be Dana Holgorsen's show. And with that, I expect there to be a lot of changes. I think we're going to go more toward, a West Coast passing offense. Now, is it going to be an air raid? Absolutely not. Is it going to be a Mark Whipple style offense that we had in 2022? Absolutely not. But we will be airing the football out a lot more. Okay, we will be in the shotgun a lot more. We'll probably not be as much of a run-heavy team as we were in 23 and even last year. Okay. That is something I'm going to be watching out for. I'm looking out for these pass concepts. How can you get a guy like Ja'Cory Barney involved more so? How can you get a guy like Quinn Clark involved? I thought Marcus Satterfield, one of the worst things he did in Nebraska, he did not know how to get his big receivers involved. Yeah, he got Ja'Cory Barney the football, but a guy like Jamal Banks, who I thought honestly had a pretty good year, he did not know how to get Jamal Banks involved the right way. Dana Holgorsen, I think, is going to change that. Obviously, Jamal Banks isn't with Nebraska anymore, but Dana Holgorsen knows how to get every single one of these wide receivers involved. I'm looking at how he can get those guys involved. And then, the big conversations, how is he going to work with Dylan Raiola to continue his development? And we'll get to that as the video progresses. But it's going to be a big offseason for Dana changing up this offense. It's not going to look the same as it has, man. I'm excited to see the new changes there. And I trust Dana Holgorsen, with his pedigree. So that's the second storyline. Let's get to the third one. I'm looking at some breakout players in particular. These guys are just players that I'm looking out for, that I feel a certain way about, I really like, and I want to see them take that next step. Okay, quarterback room, Marcos Davila. You guys know how I feel about Marcos Davila. I think he's a straight baller. I think he's a guy who can come in here and compete at day one. I think he can give Dylan Raiola up front for his money. Okay, he does the same thing Dylan does, man. Like you watch Marcos Davila on film, you're like, this is Dylan 2.0. Thing about Marcos, though, he's just as smart as Dylan. He has a great work ethic too, but Marcos can complete the deep ball. Like Marcos Davila. Can he take that step, though? Can he continue to put his head down and give Dylan Raiola his money? We'll see. Okay, in that running back room, this is a big spring for Quinn Ives. Okay, if Quinn Ives can't be the player we think he can be, he might be told to move on at the end of the spring ball. Seriously, like he's going into year 3 with Nebraska. At some point, if you're never producing, or if you're never going to go on the field, you never will. It's a big spring for Quinn Ives to prove that he's a quality player. Demetrius Bell is somebody I'm looking for to bounce back. Matt Rhule said a week ago that he's behind schedule when it comes to his rehab. He should be good, by, mid-spring practice. People forget that last spring ball, Demetrius Bell was arguably the best receiver on the roster. Here was Ja'Cory Barney during spring ball last year. Here was Demetrius Bell. Okay, before Demetrius Bell, of course, blew out his knee during the spring game, which is one of the reasons why the spring game's going away. So, Demetrius Bell, can he get back to that level? Because I know how talented that guy is. Former 4-star coming out of Tennessee. Okay. On the defensive side of the football, Keona Davis. We heard the comparison to Ndamukong Suh. Can he take to the next level as well? Willis McGahee, somebody I'm very high on, out of Miami, Florida. Super athletic. He has those genes from his dad, who was a legendary running back in Miami. Can he become our starting jack, perhaps? Or at least give Deshaun McCullough a run for his money? Larry Tarver's a guy I'm high on. Can he start alongside Sear Wright? And then last one, Tristan Alvano. Is Tristan Alvano just going to be a backup kicker for the rest of his career? Or is he going to completely recover from his groin injury and give John Hull a real competition? Another guy who's worth talking about. So there's a lot of players that I have my eyes out for. Those are the main ones, though. Fourth storyline. I'm looking for Nebraska to develop a better culture. The culture for Matt Rhule has been pretty darn good. These players are bought in. They believe in the coaching staff. They believe in each other. That's not what I'm really focused on, however. Throughout the next couple weeks, throughout the next couple months, I'm looking for Nebraska to build a culture of being uncomfortable. That's how you win close games. Build a culture of being uncomfortable. Build a culture of when the games get tight, it's a tie ball game against a good team, you still feel confident in your abilities. The coaching staff does not waver. The players do not waver. And you go out there and execute and you win the football game. That starts in spring practice, and that starts by executing and having a culture of being uncomfortable, okay? By doing things a different way, by believing in each other. Easier said than done. There's a lot of programs who aren't good at that. Nebraska's one of them. They need to change that because the best teams are the teams that win when the game gets tight, okay? Nebraska played Ohio State last year. Game was very tight. Ohio State went on to win the national championship, but Ohio State won that game because they are more comfortable when they are uncomfortable. Okay. They're fine with being uncomfortable. They can thrive when they're uncomfortable. Nebraska can't. Nebraska, unfortunately, throughout the Matt Rhule era and the Scott Frost era and beyond, they only win football games when they're completely comfortable, when they start blowing out teams from the beginning, aka the Wisconsin game, the Rutgers game, the Colorado game. They're only comfortable when they can begin the game hot. But if the game gets tight, they become uncomfortable very quickly. They don't know how to get through that, and they lose. Can Nebraska build a culture of being uncomfortable? Can they thrive in that? That starts in spring practice. It's a fourth thing I'm looking out for. Number 5, you already know what this is. I'm looking at Dylan Raiola. Can Dylan Raiola take a jump that we know he can take to be a top 10 quarterback in the country? I've really dived into Dylan Raiola's film over the past couple of weeks, and I have not been impressed, to be honest with you. I remembered these games, and I was always a Dylan Raiola truther throughout the year. The fan base was very harsh on Dylan. Very harsh. And I would always tell you guys after the games, like, don't blame Dylan. Yes, he didn't play the best game in the world, but he's a freshman. I'm rewatching these games now. I'm like, okay, I could see what you guys were talking about. Like, Dylan did struggle. His deep ball accuracy, of course, was really bad. His progressions weren't as good as I thought they were. His pocket presence was not phenomenal. His accuracy, his bullet accuracy was not great. There are things that Dylan needs to do to progress. He was fine. He wasn't a 5-star quarterback in his freshman year. I'm looking out for him to develop being a leader, executing better on the football field, having better deep ball accuracy. That's the main thing I need from him. I need him to continue to read Big Ten defenses at a high level, to be creative, to put in the work, to take that jump we all know he can. Because I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. His freshman year was a little underwhelming. Just was. From a number one overall recruiting country. He wasn't a Trevor Lawrence. He wasn't a C.J. Stroud. He wasn't a Justin Fields. Which is fine. He doesn't need to be those guys. But there really was never a game last year. And I don't want to be hard on him because I'm not. But there never was a game last year where you sat there and said, Dylan's the reason why we're winning. It wasn't. We either won football games because, we were so physical through the running game or because of our defense. There wasn't a game where it's like, oh, Dylan's just the game changer here. Not to sound like I'm being harsh on Dylan because I'm not, but I need him to take that jump forward because we were talking cold hard cash when committed to Nebraska about being a potential first-round draft pick. You talk to most people, they probably still have him pinned in as a first-rounder, but not ahead of guys like Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, some other these younger guys. So, listen, I'm looking for him to take that jump, to continue to develop as a player, to that deep ball accuracy, the processing speed, the pocket presence, to feel more comfortable getting outside the pocket and making plays off script. Need that. And that starts right now through the work of Glenn Thomas, through the work of Dana Holgerson, through the work of his private quarterback coach, Jeff Christensen. Starts right now. Need that development. All right. Those are my 5 storylines that I'm looking out for throughout Nebraska spring practice beginning on March 26th. Let me know your thoughts down below. What are the things you're looking out for, the massive storylines that you are watching out for throughout those next couple weeks? Let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. I appreciate all of you guys. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule. See you in the next one.